everybody. Welcome back into the Built Different podcast. As always, I'll be your host today, Dr. Zach Clinton, joined by my dad, my best friend, my mentor, my coach, all of the above, president of the AACC, director of the Center for Human Flourishing here at Liberty University. Dad, thanks so much for joining me today.
Love getting to do this together and can't wait to talk to Chad Robichaux.
I know. Chad is in the house. Chad is a former Force Recon Marine. On top of that, he's a best-selling author. He's the founder of the Mighty Oaks Foundation. He's a PTSD survivor. He's an MMA champion. He's also a leader of humanitarian rescue missions. He's all over the place, all over the news, testifying, doing everything you can imagine. But God is doing a special work in and through Chad's life. Chad, just to begin, thanks so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. I'm not only excited to be on the show, but for tonight at Ignite, going to speak to thousands of men. I'm very grateful to be
Chad,
here.
we appreciate the friendship. Seriously, it's amazing what all the conversations we've had, Chad, but what God's doing is just insane. Hey, you were here at Ignite before.
Yes.
Blew this place up, literally. I mean, you brought in a special guest.
Oh, yeah.
You remember that moment?
Aziz.
Aziz.
You talking about Aziz, right?
Yes,
years ago,
Aziz.
yes.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was
a moment.
It was a moment because he was important to you in Afghanistan.
Very. He was my not only my interpreter and teammate, but he's my friend. And I'm here sitting here right now because of Aziz.
Yeah. And now we're back, right, on the precipice of what I believe God is going to do something incredible in this room. 4,500 men, sold-out crowd, Ignite Men's Impact Weekend, Lynchburg, Virginia, Thomas Herd Baptist Church, and there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of buzz. I've already seen so many men that I'm just familiar faces from the years, over the past 10, 15 years coming to this very event. They cannot wait for what God's going to do. But what I can't wait for is we just sat down with Bradley Geary. I am yet to meet, but I can't wait to meet Tommy Waller. But then yourself, you're going to be leading an America 250 Heroes panel for us tonight. And our theme is Forged Through the Fire, Chad. So when you think about getting out there, speaking to some of the greatest leaders and patriots that have ever walked the face of this earth, I want to hear just what is God doing in and through you, and what do you really want to portray to these men?
Well, I mean, when you and I spoke about what we're going to do in this panel, Brad and Tommy were top of my list, and I'm glad they were both available and able to be here because we have some great warriors in America, and we have great warriors out there right now defending our nation and protecting people around the world who can't protect themselves. But when you talk about leaders, like I think of men like Brad Geary and Tommy Wall. These are incredible leaders, both from the special operations community. One from who led a squadron at SEAL Team 6. Then was commander of BUDS, producing, next generation of Navy SEALs. And then Tommy Waller, who was a Force Recon platoon commander and company commander. Both of these guys led in combat. Both of these guys have had big wins, big losses. Wow. Have lost men. Yeah. And beyond that, have persevered. And when you talk about forged through the fire, they've been through the fire, and they've led others through the fire. And so there's so many lessons that can be learned from warriors like that, from the experience they have, into the culture of manhood. And so when you gave me an opportunity to do that, I'm like, these are the guys, and we're gonna have just a phenomenal. These are my friends, and I'd have this conversation around a campfire with them, but we're gonna have a conversation here on stage in front of 4,500 men tonight, and hear what these guys think about when it comes to going through the fire, struggles, hardships, brotherhood, and where faith ties into all of that. Because where all those things connect is where true resilience comes from.
Chad, I want to dive into your story here for a moment, because you're somebody who's gone through some stuff in your life. Yeah. You are a leader of your own, but you faced
a surgery.
I know. I know. You've gone seriously lost a toe. What in the world? I got a picture of that. Man, I ain't the best with blood.
I can't even imagine. Seriously.
Yeah, inside that shoe is still a bleeding foot.
Oh my goodness, Chad. No, but
don't show it to Zach.
Don't show it to
me.
But in reality, you've gone through a lot of stuff and a lot of different facets of life. Yeah. And Job 23:10 is our theme verse this weekend. But he knows the way that I take it. When he has tested me, I will come forth as gold. But that doesn't mean that the suffering is going to be easy or it's going to be comfortable. I'd love for you to just take us into some moments of just suffering through different seasons, maybe, of your life.
Yeah, I mean, my life it seems to continue to be a life of hardship and struggle and even in a season right now, I'm in a season right now of hardship. So through those, man, I've continued to learn so many lessons, and I could run from God because of it, or could lean in, and
That'd be easy to do.
it'd be easy to do. And there's been in historically
But
in
not
my
really
life,
easy.
it feels easy, but the results
Yeah,
are
the ends are empty.
yeah. And but there has been a seasons in my life where I ran from God in those hardships, and now I'm in a season in my life. You're talking about seasons. I'm in a season in my life where for the last 16 years, when the hardship comes, I'm able to lean on my Creator and the brotherhoods that the brotherhood that God's allowed me to be a part of, and the truth of His Word that I didn't have before. And so my response to those hardships has been much different in the back half of my life as far as the first half of my life. But I grew up in a very dysfunctional home with where not only like physical abuse was present, but abandonment. Lost a sibling, lost a brother who was killed when I was 14. He was 15, and then lived alone from 15 years old without a father or mother. I lived with my older sister. Going to the Marine Corps at 17 years old. Being in special operations, becoming a Force Recon Marine was a tough journey for me. And some ups and downs in that journey. And then I always dealt with my whole service just because of where I came from. And I think I still battle with this a lot, even in ministry. Like today, this kind of imposter syndrome, not good enough, having to prove myself. And then 9/11 happens. I end up in Afghanistan. Major losses, big wins, major losses in Afghanistan. Spent a lot of time alone because of my job as an AFO, and then the isolation of that job really got to me. And then, in my book Saving Aziz, it's redacted, so I can't say the location, but in a neighboring country to Afghanistan, in a singleton capacity, working by myself, have a compromise in an operation, get abducted by a foreign intelligence agency, and the wheels just flew off for me, and the job the only thing I thought I had was this job. My identity was totally tied in this work. It was taken away from me through anxiety, depression, debilitating panic attacks, and it just led me to a 3-year downward spiral, which was masked in the success of the rebound of fighting and professional fighting and win a world championship and being the ranked number 6 in the world and as an MMA fighter and all these things that I hid behind that, but the result of that was the catastrophic, rock bottom of separating from my family and having a suicide attempt in 2010. And some incredible people came around me, my wife and a mentor who ended up being a mentor. In fact, Steve Toth, who's just beat Dan Crenshaw for the congressional seat in Texas at the time. He was an elder on call at the church and a owner of a small pool business, and he led me to a relationship with Jesus and discipled me for a year, and it helped me understand the life that I was created to live and how to intentionally live that life out. And through that process of restoration and finding hope, God just restored a new purpose in me and put a deep burden in my heart to pay that forward. And that was 16 years ago. And since then, I've just been leaning into the burdens that God puts on my heart to help others, to pay that forward to others. And we started Mighty Oaks Foundation, which the AACC, I always say this every time I can, was such a big influence for me because I had no idea. God was burdening my heart to help veterans. I knew it was done for me, but I couldn't figure out the PTSD piece because even all the secular counselors that I went to, they couldn't explain what PTSD was. And I searched for answers, and the only place I found the answers was understanding the creation perspective of PTSD, and that was through the AACC's combat care and trauma program. And I got certified through the program to be a pastoral biblical counselor through that, and took that course, and it really helped me equip for this curriculum we built. And since then, and we've spoken to over 500,000 troops on base around the world at Mighty Oaks. We've had over 7,000 come to our resident program, and between the veterans space, first responder space, and the humanitarian space, because I moved into doing humanitarian rescue work again as well, with a lot of special veterans from special operations community. We've raised over $100 million in the last 10 years. Served so many people. We led rescues in places like Afghanistan, Ukraine, and right now, one of our alumni and team members, I'm on the board of Heroes for Humanity. They're out right now as we sit here, moving Americans out of Middle Eastern countries with the Iranian war. Wow. And I've been working on that all week. Yes. And been on the news helping get support for Heroes for Humanity and for Mighty Oaks. And yeah, so it's been incredible journey. But man, to answer your question, life in this broken world is lots of highs and lots of lows, and we're not going to get around that.
Chad, talk to us about resilience. It's kind of like wired into your DNA. You know that, and the God factor in the midst of all of it. You know, there's a bunch of guys going to be showing up tonight. A lot of them are in the throes of a nightmare themselves. You know, that they have their own battles.
Well, resilience is just like having a relationship with Christ. It's not an exemption from hardship. It's saying when I face hardship, that I'm going to bounce back. I'm going to persevere through. That's resilience. Resilience. I think a lot of people think, oh, that guy's really resilient, or that person's such a strong believer. They're not. You have this relationship with Christ. You're not gonna face hardship. No, that's a lie, because, and I believe that's a lie of the enemy, because if you believe that, then when you face hardship, you become hopeless, right? Because you don't expect it. But we should know, like every character in the Bible that I respect and see, that they've all been through like tremendous amount of hardships, but they've demonstrated the resilience to get through it. And there's lots of things that you have to. I say lots of things. There's several components that you have to be resilient, and faith is one of them. But we need to be, mentally tough. We have to have a good perspective, inform ourselves of the world that we live in and the culture we live in, and the things we're going to do. You got to be aware of your surroundings. Physically, I think you physically need to be healthy to be resilient. Take care of your body. God gave us one body. We take care of it. Socially, you got to surround yourself with the right people. You can't pick who you work with or who your family is, but you can certainly pick who you let influence your life.
Sure.
And then spiritually, it's that strong spiritual foundation through a relationship with Jesus and intentionally living the life that God created us to live by, aligning our lives to His Word. The application of those four pillars is where we get true resilience. And I believe, when I would say that all of them are required, holistically all of them are required, I do believe that if I only had to pick one, it would be my faith, because I could lose my health, I could lose my mind, and I could lose my friends. But if I still have Jesus, I have everything I need. And so that's why I believe that that's the most important pillar for me through experiences I have. And not only experience I personally have had, but through experience of working with tens of thousands of warriors through my yokes.
I'm just thinking, Chad, a lot of people think, sounds soft. You know what I mean? Wait a second, I thought he's an MMA guy, tough guy, Afghanistan, he's done all this stuff, and he comes back and says, Jesus. They're probably thinking, I don't know, what's happening? What's happened to him?
Yeah.
What they probably don't understand, Chad, is in those dark places when all seemed lost.
Yeah.
It wasn't about the darkness, even though it's really about the light. And if you don't have hope, honest to God, if you don't have hope, what do you have? What are you holding on to?
I get really. I used to feel the same way. There was a moment in my life when I went to Afghanistan, and I had been exposed to faith. I claimed to be a Christian. The word Christian was stamped on my dog tag. But now I'm presented with, I'm going to be in a war zone. The bad guys are going to try to kill me. I'm going to try to kill them. That's what's about to happen. Like, is there room in my life right now to be this person of faith? And I felt like I had to choose between masculinity and Christianity. Like being the tough guy or being the person of faith. And I didn't know those two could coexist. So I felt like I had to choose. So I put faith on a shelf, and I chose to be a warrior. And that left a giant hole inside of my heart that I filled with hate and rage and anger and bitterness. And because of that, I wasn't a resilient warrior, and I fell. Yeah. But the guys who I seen sustain the hardships of war were the ones that understood that not only can they coexist, but we were designed for them to coexist. The greatest warriors I've seen in this life, in the battlefields of our homes or the battlefields of combat, are men of faith. Men like Brad Geary, who went to war with faith in their heart before and made the decision to be a man of God. The toughest guys I know are men of faith. And there's a caricature, this fake projection of who Jesus was and who men of faith was. You pick up a book, the Bible or other books of history, and see the most ruthless, violent, capable dudes on the battlefield of our history have been men of faith. And on both sides, by the way, like even faith side of the pit of hell, the most violent, like the Taliban, you want to talk about like people committed to fight to the end? Yeah. Like religious fanatic Taliban. Yeah. They're spiritual.
They're willing to fall on that sword, is what you're saying. Literally. Yeah. Going there.
They're not sissies. Yeah. Like they're demonically possessed, and they're so far off from the truth of what they believe in their God, but they are warriors. They're tough because their spiritual resiliency is so strong in what they believe. But the same thing on the Christian side. I mean, look at David and his mighty man. Those guys wasn't sissies.
No.
Jesus wasn't a sissy, by the way.
That's right.
Jesus got backed in a corner, backed to a corner of a cliff, and his community was going to push him off. And somehow, the Bible doesn't say how, he walked through that crowd. No one threw him off that cliff because he's probably sitting there with his big carpenter Popeye forearms and was like, no one put their hand on him because he was an intimidating dude.
Yeah.
He was a man.
Yeah.
He wasn't he didn't have the Vidal Sassoon flowy hair and white robe like we see in some of these pictures. He was a man.
He was a man.
Yeah.
Chad, I want to talk to you about this because I'm thinking about going over in war and combat. You see things that people can't even dream up. You see evil and just heinous acts of it on a daily basis where it's like, how can you begin to even let somebody in? Because at the end of the day, it's you, in a sense, versus the enemy. It's you versus the world. Spiritual warfare is very real, but then I'm thinking about somebody that comes from a wounded background, somebody who fears abandonment, somebody who has a lot of challenge that they've gone up against in life. And for a lot of men, they suffer in silence. They struggle in loneliness. I think about those that come back
alone. By the way, alone.
They bring war back home with them with PTSD and all these things, and they're afraid of letting people in because, man, there just wasn't many people they could trust overseas. I'm just thinking, where do we begin? Where do men begin to recognize that you have to let people in? Everybody needs a battle buddy. I think we need friends for the fire. Why is that so significant?
You're
really
taught
click
that all
for
the way
men?
back. I mean, that's like day one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think men believe that it's better to do it alone, but like, not only we are not supposed to do it alone, but we don't have to do it alone. Like we were created to be in community.
Yeah.
And the greatest chain breaker that I've seen in the ministry of Mighty Oaks with these guys that are dealing with tremendous amount of hurt and PTSD and anxiety and depression and just hopelessness. The biggest chain breaker I've seen is when we see guys exercise vulnerability and transparency. Wow. And so one of our methodologies at Mighty Oaks is we don't ask guys to do that. We demonstrate it. One of the first things they'll get when they show up there is someone from a previous class is going to stand up in front of them and give the most vulnerable, raw, transparent testimony they probably ever heard. And they're like shocked by it that someone would be that raw. But we create an environment we create an environment in that intensive week that they have that they by day 2 or 3 or 4 they like almost feel like out of place if they're not participating because every one of our leaders in our program get up and they just tear the veil back to the scars of their heart and share it with these guys that are strangers, and it becomes so bonded and so close. And then once they realize that everything, I think Stu Weber says this in his book Tender Warrior, everything that I struggle with is in the heart of every man you know. That we all are afflicted with the same wounds of this world, and I'm not alone in it. Then the walls come down to be able to be transparent yourself and share and open. One of the things I get a lot from people is like, I have this veteran in my community. How do I get him to talk to me? How do I get him to tell me what they're struggling with? I want to help them. And a lot of times it's the opposite. You're looking to go to them and get them to tell you what they're dealing with. How about just sit down, take them for a cup of coffee, and sit down across from him and tell them about the time you struggled. Tell them about the time you failed. Tell them about the time that you hurt.
Modeling
If you want transparency and vulnerability from someone, demonstrate it. Demonstrate it. And usually it's replicated. And that brotherhood, as that we talked about, man, we were created for that. We were created. We're not created to be alone, and we don't have to be.
I'm there for you. I got your back.
And that's what you guys. That's why I love you guys so much, because that's one of the things you guys create, in the programs that the AACC puts out, is just the ability to have these groups and these lesson plans and these resources that churches could come together in the groups for all the different things that people deal with, and come together and solve these problems together. I mean,
interestingly enough, Chad, to encourage one another. Somehow it speaks life. It speaks power. It speaks courage into someone else. When you believe somebody's got your back, let's flip it on its head, and you don't think Coach has your back, you're in a bad spot.
Yeah.
I'm serious. What happens if the coach turns his back on you? Turns away.
You feel alone.
And what I'm thinking about is in the pains of life. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, thou art with me. Think about this in the context of faith. I want to come back to this faith factor because it really, it's a mesmerizing conversation for me. Hey, why is my soul cast down? Hope thou in God. You know, God's in the midst of it. Elohim is our refuge and a strength, a present help in the time of trouble, when life's not the way it's supposed to be. Therefore we won't fear, though the earth be removed and the mountains be cast into the depths of the sea. No matter what happens, all this metaphoric language, just describing every calamity that could happen. He is in the midst of it. He's in the midst of it. He's in the midst of it. He's in the midst of it. Therefore, what? Be still and know that I am God. In other words, when there were 185,000 Assyrians going to wipe out, 10,000 Israelites, they stood amazed at the good work of God. He caused everything, just wiped them out. I'm just thinking, Chad, as I look at you and I think about the dark places, somewhere, someone, somehow, something took you to that place. And I'm just thinking about the people who are listening. You heard him saying? I mean, that's why faith has become so powerful in the research. When you look at the Global Flourishing Study, when you look at all the, quote, meta-analysis of all these, quote, factors related to mental health, and we talk a lot about all that because it all ties back to being resilient. You know, how do you face all this stuff? Faith is at the heart of it. Why? Because ultimately, it really is about trusting my well-being into the hands of someone else who I actually believe has my best interests at heart. And without faith, it's impossible to please God. And so, no wonder I marvel at Secretary Hegseth. And he's just like bold, you know, I mean, just raw, straight up, just pouring God stuff out. You know why? Because I think he believes it.
Yeah, he does believe it, yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yep. Yeah.
Chad, what were you say?
Chad, that piece for you. And when I look at you, and you and I have had a lot of conversations together, and I think about the roads you've been on, and I think about that light piece, I just like that. I like that. I see that. Yeah, it's like I see you. Hold on to it. Keep fighting a good fight.
Yeah,
Don't quit.
We certainly can't stop now.
No.
It's too much at stake.
Too much at stake.
Too much at stake.
What I wanted to chat with you about, Chad, just going off of what Dad just mentioned, this idea of faith, the faith factor, right? That faith fuels, faith wins, faith actually triggers this idea of resilience in general. I'm just thinking about you speaking at the Marine 250 with the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, and then yourself. Three men of faith who truly are unashamed of their faith in Christ, getting up there in front of the entire Marine Corps and being able to present. I just want to know, like, what is God doing in the branches of military right now? I'd love to hear from your perspective.
Well, I've spoken to, probably close to 500,000 or maybe even more, over 500,000 active duty service members. And of all the events I've done, that was the most amazing, right?
Of course.
Of course.
I would say
they flew me
up on the board somewhere.
They flew me in a helicopter. Like, I flew in a Seahawk from like ship to ship to speak to Marines and sailors. And then the culminating event was this big exercise where they showed the entire strength and ability of the Navy and the Marine Corps to do amphibious landing. It was air. I mean, this thing was the most powerful demonstration of Naval Marine Corps strength that you can imagine. And then the culminating event was a speaking event, and 25,000 Marines and sailors on Delmore Beach. And Jocko speaks, I speak, then Secretary Hegseth and the Vice President. But when you prepare for a speech like that, you want to get it down. So a lot of rehearsal, a lot of preparing. Like I got my 10 minutes to motivate these Marines. And of all the things I said, and I'm critical of myself, but that one I was like really happy with my speech. Of all the things I said, the biggest reaction I got was when I paused to profess my faith in Jesus. Wow. And those Marines went nuts.
Did they really?
And to where, you kind of, when you over prepare for a speech like that, you kind of know. You guys spoken a lot. You know when you're going to get the laughs. Yeah. You know when you get the cheers. So you already kind of program in your pauses. Yep. I didn't expect that reaction, and it took me back. And I thought, this is amazing. Like, these are 25,000 young. Most of these guys are below 25 years old, 18 to 25 years old, war fighters. And of all the things I said to motivate them, the biggest response I got was professing my faith in Jesus. And when I got off the stage, I went to Brad was there and Tommy was there, and I'm like, something shifted. Like there's a shift, and that's what
when
real
you're
leadership
what
does.
you're facing right now, man, you know what I mean? It's
Well,
serious.
It's good versus evil. You're not picking. By the way, there's no Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal anymore.
Nope.
This is good versus evil.
That's right.
Like you and
Yeah.
people are
This
realizing
is light and darkness, man.
they
It's
have to
just
pick a
straight
side.
up.
People have realized they have to pick a side. I think the left, in the godless people in America and around the world, they've overplayed their hand and exposed who they are, and people feel like they
It's
have to pick a side.
It's unbelievable.
And thankfully,
Yes.
people are picking a side of righteousness.
Yes.
And that has really put a light on goodness
But
and God.
here's the deal,
Yes.
Chad. At the end of the day, though, you know this, that anything that smacks of righteousness, of boldness, of courage, of character, especially that way, all hell will come against. All hell will break loose.
This year, I have had, when you talk about spiritual warfare, I have had, I've been accused of, being a liar, being a fake, stealing money from everything that a person in public position get, everything. It's just
and
it's
social media
insane.
is brutal. It's stupid.
The bigger the
garbage.
platform gets,
yeah.
the bigger your voice
It's
gets, the
an
more
all-out
people hate.
assault.
It's
They
crazy.
don't even care. It's sensational headlines, all kinds of garbage.
They don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't care. There's no regard to what's true. It's just like the attack. And thankfully, it's pretty easy. The attacks that I've had have been, and other people weren't the same. But for me, the attacks I had were so ridiculous that it just kind of comes and goes. But
I want to go back
It
to
does.
what Zach was talking about. You know, friends for the fire. I mean, you can't go it alone. You know why? Because none of us are that good.
no,
We're not. Yeah.
I'm not. I can't.
None of us are.
Yeah, I mean, man, I am so blessed to be surrounded by such incredible people every day.
Yeah.
Not just professionally. Professionally, yeah, because I have an important job. God's put a heavy burden on my heart to do important work, and professionally, I need to be surrounded by, some world changers and kingdom builders and guys that are smarter than me and women that are more organized than me and all the things to make things happen. But outside of that, personally, man, not only is life hard, but being in ministry is hard. Being in ministry would be super easy if it wasn't for people. You guys know that. but it's hard. It's hard work, and I need. I feel like I've recognized that I need a tremendous amount of support to do this work well, and I'm the best. I speak against it all the time, but I'm probably the best isolator there is. I think if there was a world championship for isolating, I could probably win it.
And here's the scary thing. Hell loves to get you alone.
Yeah.
You know, like the African lion, he separates his prey off from the pack.
Yeah.
Hell loves to get you alone. There's an old Jewish proverb that says this: "He who goes too far alone goes mad." What's the one thing we were not made for? Aloneness. It's not good that man be alone. So God, help us in the midst of this to stay anchored vertically in our relationship with you and horizontally in some brothers. We'll call them a band of brothers here just for a moment that keep us, quote, steady, encouraged, strengthened, purposeful, missional. Because the moment we drift, there's some bad boys out there.
Yes, there are.
Yeah.
Yes, there
The
are.
enemy's out there. And Ephesians 6 says that we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, too, but against principalities and powers and spiritual wickedness in high places. Therefore, what? Put on the whole armor of God that you're able to withstand the wiles of the evil one. Because you know what? This is the throwdown, to stand.
Yeah.
To stand.
Yeah, I think every man listening, every woman too, but I want to speak to men.
Come on.
You, if you don't know that you're in a war, you're a bystander or a victim. You are born into a war, a spiritual war that's came way before you or I, and you're called to stand up and fight in it. And if you're going to be passively sitting aside, you're going to be you're going to be a victim.
The sad thing is, Chad, that piece out there, Zach and I talk about it a lot. The mass of men live but quiet lives of desperation. What happens is you get lost in the stuff. and you start medicating yourself, and next thing you know, you lost 5. Then you lose 10. And, maybe it's 15 years before you wake up. And hell rejoices in that. Yeah, man. Hey, you know what? Dude, hey, the boys down there, at least they accept you for who you are. You know what? It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Go do it, man. Chad, and that's the thing that's the most damning, if you will, in this journey of manhood. You can go there real easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the old quote, most men die at 26, we just don't bury them until they're 62. And so it's the same idea of helping men recognize. We've talked about combat, Chad. We've talked about the significance of community. But I kind of want to close with a note on courage. Because, again, when the massive men lead or live but quiet lives of desperation, I believe that courage is contagious. Billy Graham once said that courage is contagious because when a brave man takes his stand, the spines of others are often stiffened. When I look at Chad Robichaux and I see you just continually everywhere that God has you, from the immediate market to literally continuing to travel overseas in the humanitarian and just rescue missions, to a man that is just boldly helping people, rescuing them from PTSD at Mighty Oaks, somebody that God has commissioned for such a time as this. What's a final word to men of not just hope and not just encouragement, but of challenge and a recommissioning to stand in the gap and be the courageous leader God's called us to be?
Well, I think Shay Richardson said that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the understanding that it's being scared, but understanding that something's more important than that fear of moving forward anyway. And, I hear a lot of stuff directed towards me or our team, how brave we are and how courageous we are. Man, I could tell you, like, Dennis Price and I, swimming across the Panjshir River in Afghanistan, back in 2021, or me working in Afghanistan, me and Aziz being out in the mountains by ourselves for weeks and months at a time, driving in a Taliban village, not only without a gun but without a radio, or like in Ukraine, going when we went rescue Benjamin Hall. Like, I remember we had, 9 dudes like in our safe house, and Seaspray picks up the phone and is like, "Hey, Benjamin Hall just got catastrophically wounded. His Fox News team is dead, and he's got a wife and 2 little girls at home. If the people in this room right now don't go across the border and go into Kyiv while it's being attacked by the Russians going to seize Kyiv tonight. If the people in this room don't say yes to go get him, he's going to die, and he'll never see his wife and kids again. Wow. And who wants to go?" And every single man in that room raised their hand and went across the border, and we got Benjamin Hall home to his wife and kids, and we recovered Pierre Zhashevsky's body the next day. Like, every moment like that, these aren't guys that wasn't scared. Me included, terrified at times. And watching other guys knowing that they're, by the way, these aren't men that have like nothing to lose. These are men with like wives and kids at home, lives ahead of them, that are going to help people they don't even know, never met before, sometimes countries not their own. And so go back to that quote, like, courage is not the absence of fear. It's understanding something is more important than that fear and then moving forward anyway. The best example we have for that is Jesus at Calvary. I mean, in Gethsemane, you see Jesus pacing back and forth for an hour, falling on his face, tears like a sweat, like drops of blood. He's asking God to take this cup from him. Like he is a man facing something very difficult, very hard, whether it was fear or anxiety or anticipation, whatever it was that he was dealing with. I believe it was all those things, by the way. He demonstrated courage, the capacity to say that, yeah, this is scary, but something is more important than this fear. You, me, humanity, and moving forward anyway. And we, if we're going to model our lives after Jesus, there's not a better model to do that than that. I mean, there's going to be times in our life as men that we have important things to do, and they're scary and they're terrifying, but something has to be more important than fear, because as men we're required to move forward anyway.
Nothing more dangerous than a man on a serious mission. You know that? Felt impressed in my spirit to say this, Chad. Don't grow weary, quoting Paul.
I'll say this to the men out there. There's nothing more dangerous than a man on a mission, but there's also nothing more damaging and dangerous to the world than a passive man. Our world, the reason our country and this world is in the position we're in right now is because of weak, passive men who's sitting by and not having that courage to stand up and do the right
Chad,
thing.
thanks for being a fighter. You know that. I'll go back to that verse. Don't grow weary in well-doing, for in due season you're going to reap a reward if you don't faint. In other words, standing bold for Christ, it's all that matters. In the end, hey, waiting to hear those words, well done, good and faithful servant. Just like,
sir.
boom.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. You know that? That's what I love. I just love valor. I love strength. I love patriotism. Seriously, I love people with purpose. God's mission, doing that great thing. Chad, it matters.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Hey, we salute you. We appreciate your good.
Same
Hey,
to you guys.
your consistency and your fight in the midst of the storms.
Yes. Cannot wait to see what God
Light
has
'em
in
up tonight.
store.
Yeah.
I know, for not just tonight at Ignite, but I mean Ignite moving forward. Advisory board
Yeah.
member at Ignite. On top of that, everything happening with AACC, the Helping Our Heroes Flourish campaign. There's so many things that we're going to lock arms with, and man, we just appreciate your courage. We appreciate the way that you step into combat every day, and we just want to continue to surround you with the community of fellowship, because faithful are the wounds of a friend, man, and we're with you every step of the way.
I appreciate you guys' friendship. And if you're listening, like,
Yes.
get on the Ignite website, because we have
That's right.
events coming up.
Yes, ignitemen.net. We have one we have one May 16th coming up in Michigan City, Indiana.
I'll be speaking
Then
at that one.
You're speaking to that one. And then June 12th and 13th in Canton, Ohio. And you're speaking to that one too, my friend.
Yep.
Cannot wait to have Chad with us. Please be sure to join us if you're a man, or if you know a man, you got a special man in your life, make sure they're in the room. Again, Michigan City, Indiana, May 16th, June 12th and 13th in Canton, Ohio. God's going to do something amazing.
IgniteMen.net.
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 And Chad, where can our audience go to find out more about you, and also to watch the Resilient Show?
The easiest place to find me is on my Instagram. That's the easiest place to kind of track it, what I'm doing every day. But ChadRobichaux.com, and my website is my website, and then the Resilient Show. We have weekly episodes coming out, and we're gonna record one while we're here.
It's incredible.
with Brad and Tommy.
Chad, my friend, thank you so much for joining us. We love
Thank
you.
you.
And appreciate
Thank you guys. Appreciate your friendship. Love you guys.
To everybody, Built Different audience, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Again, as Chad mentioned, you were born into a war, right? There is a fight that you have to continue to step up for, speak up for, step into every day of your life, but you don't have to do it alone. Continue to find those brothers, those sisters, the community necessary, and then have the courage to stiffen the spine of others. Live your life on mission for a purpose, with purpose every single day. That being said, we love being a part of your life. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.